So, hello, Baba, and welcome to Storytime with Mary. So, Storytime with Mary has been going just a little over a month, and it's been phenomenal. Our main aim is to support children to develop. We've been helping them through reading with young children, and as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of research out there that suggests that reading to young children helps them develop emotionally and mentally, and also their communication skills. So we've been doing that for a little over a month, and this part of Storytime with Mary is really exciting because this is where we get to interact with experts such as Baba Dadzie, who I'm going to introduce shortly, who is a clinical psychologist all the way from Ghana, Accra in Ghana, which is very close to my heart. And she's going to help us to get into the minds of our little children. So I'd love to introduce Baba from Hearts and Minds Aloud. Hello, Baba. It would be great if you could tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, Mary. Thank you very much for having me. I've seen the work that you've done, and you're right. You started, I think it's just been a little over a month, and you've done phenomenal work. I've seen your content. It's great stuff and very meaningful for what I do too. So I was very excited, and I was excited that you asked me to join you in your work. So well done. My name is Baba Dadzie. As Mary mentioned, I'm a clinical psychologist. When I started Hearts and Minds Aloud, I mentioned that I was still in training because I had internships to finish here and there. Thankfully, I'm done with that. I'm licensed and working full-time. I started Hearts and Minds Aloud as an initiative alongside my work. It's very much rooted in what I do because the goal of Hearts and Minds Aloud was to create emotional awareness among people generally, because the plan was to do it among different cultures. But I wanted to start from Ghana at home because, of course, that's where I am. It's close to my heart too. But also because I realized that mental and emotional health isn't something that people talk about a lot. First off, because we're not aware. Yeah. And secondly, because somehow it's become an uncomfortable, or it's always been an uncomfortable thing to talk about. So my work is to, ease some of that discomfort and, explain to people that it's as much as you're able to say that you have a headache or a backache or, you've stubbed your toe or something, you should be able to talk about it if you are feeling uncomfortable emotionally, and then be able to get help if help is available, which I believe that help is. When I started this, it was mostly focused on adults because most people know that adulthood is a bit of a struggle. So I thought to target adults and then see what information I could bring to make adulting a little bit easier. And I realized that I had I use the term loosely, neglected kids. So then when you came up with this collaboration, I thought it would be a great idea to let some of my work cover kids and see what benefits it could bring to kids and parents in bringing their kids up. So
that's fantastic. And thank you so much for joining us. So 2020 has been a huge roller coaster.
Indeed.
For all of us. Yes. Personally, I've been at home for 3 months. Wow. and counting. In fact, yesterday was my 3-month anniversary at home. So it's been a really interesting challenge. And I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. Mm-hmm. And I've been working full-time. So I actually work full-time in asset management and trying to educate these young children and make sure that they're emotionally and mentally stable. And we've had a few meltdown moments of our own, but all in all, we've managed to get through it. And just in your understanding, how can you help other parents and carers of these really young children to help these children emotionally? Because I think it's been a huge emotional strain on all of our children, this whole pandemic that's happened in 2020. So how can Hearts and Minds Aloud help to support parents and carers of young children to get through that emotional trauma?
Exactly. And that's a very relevant question. Yeah. So, COVID-19 caught everybody off guard. I mean, it just happened and nobody really knew what to do. But thankfully, we are human beings and we are adaptable. So somehow we've gotten into the swing of things. I believe that it's been very difficult for children having to understand what was going on, because then parents had to understand it first, which was a struggle, and then explain it to the children. So it's been quite hard for them, having to change their routine and not being able to see their friends as easily, or being in confined spaces, more or less, which is what adults were doing as well. So I completely agree with you. It's been a bit of a challenge. What I hope to do with Hearts and Minds Aloud is to help children, help the parents, first of all, to have an awareness of the emotional strain that this might be having on them, and the fact that it might be very easy to transfer that strain onto the children. Okay, this is in spite of everything that's happening, I believe that the arrangements, that COVID-19 has, the arrangement that have emerged from COVID-19, which is that parents get to spend more time with their children at home, is a little helpful in that, parents get to bond with their children a little more, which ordinarily they may not have the opportunity to do because they're spending so much time at school and all of that. So it might be a good opportunity for parents to understand their children's temperaments, where they're at emotionally, right? Like you mentioned, that the tantrums will come. I guess the tantrums come even without COVID-19. Exactly. So with all of these factors that we've spoken about, having to spend so much time in an area, not being able to have too much free time outdoors will increase that. So yes, helping parents understand where they're at, building a little more emotional awareness for parents, understanding where their children are at emotionally too, and then trying to find strategic ways in especially communicating with them, first of all, because I feel like if you can't get a message across, then you can't even do much. And then, basically helping them build an awareness of themselves too, an emotional awareness too.
Perfect. No, that's amazing. And obviously, as one of those parents of these very small children, it's been an emotional time for all of us. Right. Do you have any tips, maybe just 3 or 4 tips that for parents that have struggled through this time? As a full-time working mum myself, I go to work. So usually, I know this is now the new normal. In the old normal, I used to get up really early in the morning, and I would leave the house by 7, drop the kids to my mom, and and somebody else would take them to school and pick them up, and I would come home at 7, and we'd play a bit, we'd have some great time, and we'd read a book, and then we'd go to sleep. And then in the new normal, I'm doing everything, waking up, educating them. Obviously, I'm not a teacher, but what we're trying to do now is support teachers through our initiatives, such as Storytime with Mary, through reading to children. But do you have any tips for parents such as myself, or even not just parents, people that are looking after young children? It could be aunties and uncles, it could be grandparents that are spending a lot more time with these children now. Do you have any tips for maybe, in my own personal experience, helping them through tantrums because they're frustrated about being at home for so much of the time?
Of course. So, the first thing that I would say, it seems like an obvious answer, but it's not that easy to do. The first thing would be to encourage parents to stay calm. Like I said, it sounds very easy to say, but when you're in the situation, it's not as easy to do. So I guess it would be great for parents to start building some kind of resilience during this period, because the tendency for you to sort of clash, for want of a better word, clash with your children is quite high. So it's important for you to stay calm in all of the, confusion for yourself. As much as you understand the situation, it would be great for parents to teach themselves to keep a calm disposition in order to be able to manage their children's temperaments and emotional challenges a bit better. Otherwise, unfortunately, it won't work, because at least parents are able to reason themselves out of it much better than children are able to. So I guess calmness is key. Also making very good use of the quality time at home. It's almost a given. You can't help it because they are there. You are there and you have to engage them somehow. So taking time to hear them, because like you mentioned, before COVID-19, there were extremely busy schedules. that, you couldn't do much about. And so quality time with children was much less than it is now. So maybe now is the time to, take time out to listen to your children, what they are saying, what their challenges have been, understand how they play. Sometimes, there's a thing called play therapy that I've come to like. Yeah. Sometimes children communicate a lot to you through how they play. And ordinarily, you may not be spending as much time around them to observe how they are playing and what they are playing with. So this might be a good time to pick up messages. They're not so loud messages that they might be sending about, how they are doing generally, how they've been doing in school, how they are adjusting, how they are developing. So I think it's also a very good time for parents to observe and bond with their children. That's an upside of, or at least you can think of it as an upside of all of this. Now, it's not all doom and gloom.
No, definitely not. I think every cloud has a silver lining. Absolutely. I'm really interested in your, your playtime and how we can support children through play. Because playing is a really important part of childhood. And, my children, they go to nursery and they learn through play. So how important is playing in your experience to children and developing them emotionally and mentally?
Yes. So play, play is very important. I can't overemphasize the value of play. Yes, there might be cultural differences, but I think even in our culture where maybe at some point you would be tempted to think that a child was playing too much, they were wasting too much time in playing. Even with such cultures, you realize that fundamentally there's play incorporated in some part of the child's development. And it's extremely important because I think it's one of the most basic ways for the child to express themselves. Okay, so similar things with reading, when we're trying to get the child to say what they're feeling. Okay, so with play, they may not necessarily say, they once they're playing with somebody else, they might, say things out loud, express things out loud that give you some indicator of what's going on. But sometimes even their body language, the sort of reactions that they have from playing with other people, they're a big indicator. So yes, it's great for development. It helps them bond with other children too, helps them, assert themselves socially, like I said, express themselves. And it builds self-confidence too, being able to contribute to whatever it is that they are doing, playing with, if they're playing house, if they're playing whatever it is, whatever situation it is or scenario it is, being able to fit in and contribute to that also builds a level of self-confidence with children. So I believe that the value of play can be overemphasized. We could talk a lot more about it, but just a little summary too.
Definitely. I think this is just the beginning of a great partnership, because I'm really excited about this, because for me, and I'm sure a lot of other parents and carers out there, it's been a really emotional time, 2020 so far. So what we're trying to do with this series with you, Baba, is to help answer any of those questions. So, this is going to be on the Storytime with Mary online website. And it's also, obviously, you're also going to be sharing it on Hearts and Minds Aloud. And it's really just to support people. So this is the grown-up section of Storytime with Mary. Storytime with Mary is aimed at, small children, preschool age. But this is for grown-ups to help them, to help their children to develop and become the best they can be.
Which is important.
Exactly, definitely. And a big part of what we're doing collaboratively is to just help children and parents be the best they can be and get through this life in the best way they can. I've been reading a lot around supporting children to read, and I understand that children that are able to have a basic understanding of reading by the age of 7 actually go on to have higher paying jobs in later life.
Of course.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's amazing. And do you have any advice for, parents and carers out there on how they can support their children through reading?
Yes. Well, so a very basic thing would be for them to start, in quotes, small. Yeah. Because I know that it doesn't come easily. It's a habit that you build over time. Yeah. If not for anything at all. For adults, for us adults, we're able to confirm that reading doesn't come very easily to to you as an adult. Reading doesn't come easy to you, something that you have to build over time, right? But of course, as an adult, it might be harder to pick up a habit that you haven't had for a while. So the best time is to start it in childhood. So it's great to start small with the basic books. If you find that your child at a certain age is struggling with reading a certain book that you think should be at their level, it's fine. You can start small. Start with the things they identify, because it's something that you can always build over time. Some children are more, visually attractive. You could get their attention. They are more visual learners. So if it means getting them books that where the attention will be drawn with colors and images, do that until the interest is built, and they've built an imagination enough where they don't necessarily rely on the pictures to understand what's going on. And then over time, becomes a habit where they may not need the pictures. They are getting comfortable with words that are unfamiliar. And so the interest comes to know that, how do I understand the meaning of this word so it fits into this context for me, which they may not have had before, because it was this book that is so big and has all of these words that I'm not really willing to spend time with. So I think that there's, adults can be a bit strategic about it.
Yes.
Practical and then patient, understanding that it's a habit that is graduated over time. Of course, some kids will pick the habit up faster. They will learn words faster, and that's okay. It's also important to not compare your child with another. It's great to focus on your child, like you focus on their milestones, focus on the development or the progress that they are making in reading in relation to themselves. So how well they did the day before, and then the day before, and then, the day after that, sorry. So the day before, then today, and then the day after that. So you sort of measure the progress that they are making incrementally. But consistency is also key. I would say that it's great to be consistent. And then eventually the habit will be picked up.
Phenomenal. And I'm so excited that we are going to be having this partnership going forward. So as a clinical psychologist, I think we all need a clinical psychologist in our lives, especially in this COVID-19 situation where we've been stuck at home and stressed. And, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to drop any questions, through the Storytime online, Storytime with Mary online website, through the Contact Us section. If you have any questions for Baba, send them through. We will ask them to Baba next time and make sure that we get all your questions answered. I'm so excited, and thank you so much. Do you have anything else to contribute before we head off?
No, Mary, I think that for a first session, we've covered very relevant material. So I will also say a big thank you to you for having me. And I look forward to working with you and, yes, bringing out meaningful information to the public.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Baba. So we will speak again next time.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Thank you.